Hello and welcome to another release video. So far we've talked about leases, what they are, what they contain, what they allow you to do, what they allow your landlord to do. And we've also talked about service charges, how they work and the timescales that your landlord needs to work to in order to get the money from you, and also how service charges are divided up. Today we're going to look at something that's closely related to leases and service charges, and that is major works. We'll go through the various aspects of what major works are, and then in the next few videos I'll go into a bit more detail about specific elements, which I'll explain as I go along today. So, the first question, what is a major work? Well, it might be easier to ask the question, what isn't a major work? Major works aren't issues to do with day-to-day repairs, items that won't really cost that much. So the flickering light in the lobby, or a broken lock on the door, or removal of graffiti. These are items that, though annoying, inconveniencing, and not the greatest things in life to deal with, they're not going to be that difficult for your landlord to arrange to repair, and ultimately they shouldn't be that costly in order to get that work done. It should be a fairly cheap job to get those sort of repairs fixed. So those types of repairs are often called responsive repairs by your landlord. The idea is you phone up, you say there's a problem with the downstairs lobby's light. They send someone round to fix it. Eventually at some point they'll bill you for the cost of that work to be done, and everyone moves on with their lives, or at least that's the theory. Major works, though, are a slightly different kettle of fish. They are usually the big ticket items, the ones that will require a great deal of planning on the part of your landlord and a fair bit of expenditure on your part. So these can be things like renewing the external decorations, painting and redecorating external parts of the building. Anything that will involve scaffolding. As soon as you put scaffolding up, costs are going to mount up. Also things like maybe the renewal of a lift, or extensive repairs of a lift, or anything that's mechanical or electrical in your building. As soon as we're talking about stuff that's going to really cost a lot of money and is going to require a fair bit of organisation on the part of your landlord, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about major works. Now, because these works are so big and so costly, there is legislation in place to ensure that residents are protected, and to ensure that residents have their say about how the work is done, and even to call into question whether or not it should be done. And for this we need to refer to our old friend, the Landlord and Tenant Act of 1985. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the Section 20 of the Landlord and Tenant Act of 1985 as amended by Section 151 of the Commonhold and Leasehold Act of 2002. Section 20 of the Landlord and Tenant Act, as amended by Section 151 of the Commonhold and Leasehold Reform Act of 2002, says that landlords need to consult with residents if any cost is going to exceed £250 for an item of repair for at least one resident. Similarly, it says that if the landlord wants to introduce a new service that will cost over £100 per resident for more than 12 months, they also need to consult residents. Now, if you remember back to our apportionments video, you'll remember that sometimes flats are divided up in such a way that different residents in flats will be paying different amounts for their service charges. And the same goes with the major works, because they'll be based on the same apportionments. So it could be that a landlord decides to carry out some major works, and it would cost one of the flats £230, another £235, another £240 and another £260. Now because one of those flats is going to be charged £260, which is £10 over the 250 threshold, they would technically need to issue a consultation letter, a Section 20 letter as it's often referred to. Now in the case of that example I've just given you, the landlord might decide to cut its losses. £260 is only £10 over the £250 threshold, so the landlord might think it's only £10, it's only for one resident, let's just cut our losses and say we'll not bother doing the consultation. That's going to take extra time, extra resources that we don't really need to worry about just for the sake of £10, and so they might just cap it at £250. A landlord will be more keen to ensure that they carry out a consultation when we're talking about repair costs or services where the costs are going to exceed the £250 threshold or the £100 in the case of services. Because if they don't carry out that consultation, they will have to cap the costs at £250 or £100 in the case of services. So if we stay with the idea of repairs, of major works, if those works were going to come into thousands and thousands of pounds, let's say £60,000 over a block of 4 flats, and so roughly £15,000 per flat, depending on how the apportionment breaks down, the landlord is going to want to make sure that they carry out that consultation so that they can get their £15,000 back from each resident, as opposed to capping it at just £250 and then having to find the remaining huge difference from their own pocket. Now the letter that you will receive from your landlord if they want to carry out some major works is often called a Section 20 notice, so named after the legislation that relates to this particular process. But there isn't just one kind of Section 20 notice, because that would be far too simple. There are in fact 5. There's a Schedule 1, a Schedule 2, a Schedule 3, a Schedule 4 Part 1 and a Schedule 4 Part 2. And these can be explained using the universal medium of a 1980s game show. Welcome to Major Works Bullseye. Now across the horizontal axis of our bullseye we have the names of each schedule. 1 and 2, which cover services costing more than £100 for at least one resident for more than a year, and 3, 4 Part 1 and 4 Part 2, which cover repairs costing more than £250 for at least one resident. And on the vertical axis, we've got how many stages are involved with each schedule. So the closer you get to the middle, the fewer stages are involved. Schedules 1 and 4 Part 2 require 3 stages. 2 and 4 Part 1 require 2 stages, and Schedule 3 requires 1 stage. Got that? Good. There'll be questions later. I'll go through each of these schedules in some more videos later on. There'll be one video for Schedule 1 and Schedule 4 Part 2, another video for Schedule 2 and 4 Part 1, and a final video for Schedule 3. But to summarise, the schedule type that you get from your landlord and the number of stages involved will depend on 2 things. Whether or not your landlord already has a contractor in place, and just how much the total cost of the works or the services will cost. At its simplest, you can reduce it all to this fairly straightforward flowchart. The flowchart requires just 2 questions. Has the landlord already got a contractor in place to carry out this sort of work? If yes, it's a Schedule 3. The second question, Is the total cost of the proposed work or service going to be particularly expensive, as in thousands and thousands of pounds? If yes, it's a Schedule 2 or 4 Part 1. If no, it's a Schedule 1 or a 4 Part 2. It's probably going to be easier if I break those different schedules up in different videos, otherwise it gets a bit confusing with all the numbers flying around. I know I'm confused. So over the next 3 videos there'll be some more breakdown on the specifics of each of those schedules, and I'll also follow it up with some videos about some other important issues relating to major work costs, in particular the Grenfell Tower fire and the aftermath for that in terms of major work costs, and also an issue called Florey's Law, which also deals with expensive repair costs. So watch out for 5 more videos coming your way in the fairly near future. All that's left for me to say now with this video is please hit subscribe to find out when other videos are coming online, and also if you've got any specific questions about anything to do with leases or service charges or major works, put them in the comment section below and I'll take a look at them and see what I can do to answer them. All that's left now is for me to say goodbye.